And we're live. I'm here with Jeremy. Jeremy, how you doing?
I am doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Walking
Awesome.
an iPad. For the listeners who don't know, walking an iPad, which is always fun. Yeah.
And I've been working all day, so if I look a bit dirty, it's just like flour from the kitchen and all that shit. So
it's flour from.
I try to brush it off as much as possible.
It's flour from the best pizza I've ever had.
Oh, beautiful!
Okay?
Yeah.
Incredible pizza. If anyone's in Alaska, check out this pizza. Check out Leo's Doner Kebab. It's incredible food. I want to give a little highlight. Here's how good the food is. Okay, the Philly cheesesteak has samurai sauce on it. Grant wouldn't tell me what was in it because he knew if I found out I wouldn't like it. I don't like any of the ingredients. but I love that sauce. I don't understand it, but it's so good.
Oh yes, yeah. It goes so well with caramelized onions and everything I put into it, and so it's like, yeah, it's a beautiful sandwich actually.
It really is. The food has been one of the things I miss most about Alaska. Has been the food. I really miss the food. The one thing I did not expect to miss when going up to Alaska was going to be food, but I missed it. It's good food.
We've been like, so I guess for anybody that hasn't, when was the last time Grant and I put an episode out? Has it been like over a year now?
It was over a year. He hasn't even put out the episode we did when I was up there was Mr. Patriarch. He hasn't even put that one out. Yeah, he never
put that one up, did he?
No, I've asked him to send me the file so I can upload it at least, but he won't even send it. Complete radio silence.
And that was a great episode.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great one.
It was the first time I had Zen, which was interesting.
Incredible.
Yeah, I got pretty drunk. Yeah, it was a crazy night. The whole night was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I still haven't gotten a full straight answer of why that episode was never released, but I don't know.
I think I don't want to speak for Grant, but if I had to guess, I think he's got. I've noticed with his converts, they go to a phase where like when you're learning it all and you think you know it all, so you're fine talking about it, but then at some point you realize I don't know jack shit, and you kind of just want to stop talking about anything Catholic because you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let me go read all the encyclicals and make sure I'm not spouting bullshit. And that's a good thing.
I guess that's fair.
When I first started podcasting as a Catholic, I said some nonsense. I said some absolute bullshit. I've had to go back and find episodes and be like, "You take that down, please." I was so stupid. Please take it down. I had to find a video from like a year ago, tweet out and be like, "I apologize for my comments towards the Holy Father. I was an idiot. He's actually great." Like it was just.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you went through kind of a trad phase when the Pope pissed you off all the time?
I didn't know anything about the Pope. I just assumed what everyone said was true.
Yeah.
Was the Holy Father being sick lately? All my Protestant friends have been texting me going, "Caleb, what's your thoughts on the heretic Pope died?" I'm like, "He's not a heretic, you faggot. Okay, shut up. He's not a heretic. Shut up." I've had to explain to people, like, if you think the media misrepresents Trump, you have no idea what they're doing to the Holy Father. Like it's
right, that's definitely true. Yeah, he just could say something sensible, but people tend to freak out. Yeah. I don't know, like, sometimes it seems like he's running his course, I guess, and he is getting sick, and he probably will die relatively soon. And we will see what else. What else really the Holy Spirit has for us? We're not determinate of that, and so it's like I don't know who the next pope is going to be, but it's going to be God's will, and so
I'm praying it's the Latin Patriarch because
I
think it's Bishop Father Pizza Bella. And I want him to take the name of John when he becomes Pope, so he's Papa John. I think all the Zoomers would convert to mass for Papa John.
That would be awesome.
Thousands of Zoomers for the memes alone would join the Catholic Church for Papa John.
Well, what is it about Papa John's actually for the Zoomers? Like, why did Papa John's blow up with you guys?
Oh, it's because he said the N-word.
Oh, so that's really the reason why. Okay.
It's solid pizza, and he said the N-word, and then he built a mansion for himself, and he lives in it and makes pizza. So he's just great. And that's the name, Papa John. He's kind of
That is awesome, actually.
Zoomers love. I think Curtis, you haven't talked about it with you guys, but like Zoomers love irony. Anything that can be ironic.
Okay.
The moment you do it, it's no longer ironic. But we just love. Mainly because it's a way for us to say what we want to say, and then immediately go, I'm just being ironic, because like an immediate cop-out or defense. I've done every time I got caught out for being racist, I've gone like, I'm just joshing around. I'm just joking. I love the Indian.
Your favorite people, the Pagis.
I was talking about with a friend today. I said, if the Vatican did not declare that they are human beings who are, and they deserve the dignity that a human being deserves, I would not believe the people. I don't think Indians and Han Chinese. I think they're like this. Okay, you see the way they treat animals and people. I don't think they evolved like we did. They kind of evolved in a fist like that. Look at their eyes. It's like fist eyes. I don't. But the church says the people, and I must be wrong because they have to be people according to the church, and I submit to the church.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
I mean, really, I'm partly joking, but if you look at like the development of Western civilizations, they had cities way farther back than we did, but they weren't like cities as we picture them. They were just walls with people hoarded together. It's like if a school of fish found a cave. That's much more equivalent to their development. And so I think that there's something there about, hunter-gatherer packs of civilization were much more like wolves. They're much more like fish. There's something there to that, but who knows? The church is the people. I have to accept it. If the church say the Aztecs are people, the Indian can be people too. I think that's fair.
Man. So what else is new with you? So you got a good job there in Florida now?
Yeah, I'm with my dad still.
Yeah.
I'm getting moved inside soon, which would be nice. Less weird work, more office work. I imagine I'll go in Spain, sitting inside all day, but I think it'll beat the heat. It'll
yeah.
And the gators and the wildlife and all that kind of stuff.
You don't want to wrestle some gators?
I mean, I'm always for it, but we don't get workman's comp for that. It's just I don't really want to risk it.
Yeah.
But no, things are going good. Working a lot. I'm reading a shit ton more. This has been fun.
Oh, really? What kind of things are you reading?
I'm currently obsessed with this German philosopher, which normally I can't stand German philosophers, but he's a Korean born and he moved to Germany for college. He's Byung-Chul Han. He's kind of a postmodernist, but he's very Catholic. So,
yeah.
He's basically, his whole point is social media technological advancements have dehumanized people, where we now instead of he has a documentary about Korea, and he goes it's kind of similar to his entire philosophy. 3 generations ago, Koreans were farmers, and now they're hunter-gatherers for information for others, and they live in offices all day, and they sleep everywhere. Like that transition has been too fast for them, and they're just collapsing. And that as technology's advanced, we all kind of exported. What was that? What was the idea in philosophy of the mind, where someone said like the notebook is an extension of your extension of your mind because you've written things down on it. If you write your thoughts down.
Oh, right, yeah. That's like Chalmers. I know Chalmers.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Yeah.
It's kind of like a sociological take on that. That is, people has exported their ideas and their thinking to machines. They have they've been connected and absorbed by the technology and become less human because of it. He has books on beauty. Books, his books are always very short. I mean, his biggest book. How do I hear? Let me grab it. His biggest book is only like 130 pages. Very easy to read.
Oh, wow.
Not one wasted word, and he's super quotable. But what I like about him though is like one of them, like on reclaiming the crisis of narration, or reclaiming contemplation, or it's like the agony of eros, where he talks about the destruction of the dating market and how social media has destroyed dating. It's very very good.
So it's a very recent. So he's a very very recent thinker then. If he's talking about social media and stuff, yeah, okay.
His third book is all on social media. He's very recent.
Oh wow, okay.
But he's very good. The reason I've been reading him is that with most philosophers, they love rhetoric and they love being in order, which I appreciate. But like when you make the same point 7 sentences in a row, I got the point. You can move on. There's not one wasted word. It's very straightforward. There's never a wasted sentence. And so you can just read it and immediately get it. It makes it's a lot more pleasurable. Like much as I love reading St. Thomas, like I don't need 5 objections. I don't need the objections are better than everybody else already. I don't need 5 of them. Okay, they're already beating atheists here in objections. I don't need 5 of them.
Yes, yeah. Partly that was because it was made for education.
Yeah, and it's made for education. I get it. But when you're just trying to read, you have the giant suit when you're just trying to read it outside. It's not the same as like holding the small book and a cigarette in your other hand.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. But that's why I would say like his Contra Gentiles work is a little more readable, as opposed to the Summa Theologiae, just because it's it's written like the Contra Gentiles is written for teaching, but just as philosophical work, and it's really straight to the point and everything. So, I do understand the objection.
I've enjoyed his commentary on Aristotle the most. I think I've really enjoyed his commentary on Aristotle's metaphysics. That's been my favorite one to read so far.
Yeah, awesome.
But okay, so have you been paying attention to the news and how great Trump has been recently?
Yes, definitely.
It's so good. Him and Vance.
It's pretty awesome. I think like the only issues that I would have that pretty much a lot of other conservatives are having is kind of his position with Israel. To me, it just seems a bit off compared to the rest of his stuff. But
I'm of the opinion that you can't, unless you because of the economics of everything and the Bank of London and all that stuff, you have to play ball with them at least a little bit in some way favorable towards them, or shit goes wrong. And I think the position he's taking is like the best he could take. I mean, it's better than Biden. It's better than, speaking of Biden, if I told you so when I was driving back from Alaska, I went by the Wax Museum of Presidents.
Okay.
And they had a bust of Joe Biden.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. I got a bust of Joe Biden right next to my crucifix and my St. Thomas statue.
That is awesome.
I had to get it. Really for me, I could care less about Israel. It's gonna always just be a saying. I don't think we're getting rid of it anytime soon. Sad. I don't think the Pope's gonna roll up with seven legions and just take it back. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes, yeah.
Me, my big beef was anything Trump's doing is IVF. Every time he does anything related to IVF, I'm like, it's so cringe. It's really just used by women who missed the boat and gay people, and I don't think either of them should be having children.
Yes.
Either of them should be having kids.
Yeah. The IVF thing. That might be a good topic of a discussion, because maybe you have strong opinions about it. I don't really, because it seems to me that every objection, including the church's objection against IVF, is more about the practice of IVF rather than the principle of it. So meaning that the way that it is practiced contains evils, but I have never heard an argument that in principle IVF is like intrinsically immoral.
If they could find a way where they could, my problem with IVF is that anytime they do it, they always create an abundance of fertilized eggs,
Right.
what I'm looking for here, fetuses that could become life, and they often just get fast or used in stem cells. And that's my major issue is that's offensive life right there. That could all be life. That's all potentially life, but it's being thrown away.
Right.
But really, when it comes down to like the root cause for IVF, is I don't like the commoditization of babies. And because if you look into how it's like again the practices of it all, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a documentary on a while back that Trent Horn said. I mean, as crazy as he is, occasionally puts up something good. Occasionally,
right, some of his videos I watched are pretty decent.
He's fallen into the trap all Catholic anthropologists fall into, which is they sink the student new guys, and it's like, no, you're old. You're 90s. You're early 2000s. You're not dealing with today's age. Get with the times. But the documentary, they went through examples of the IVF organizations will go to college campuses or lower income communities and find women and offer them a bunch of money to become surrogates. And I find that really weird.
And again, like all those things I find valid, but all of those are the practice of IVF. It's basically saying that, people use it for commoditization, people use it for whatever, but one of the reasons why they, for example, why they have to produce so many zygotes is precisely because of how expensive it is.
Yes.
And so because it's so expensive, they have to raise the chances. But let's say, so because, for example, abortion is intrinsically evil, right? In principle, it isn't the practice of abortion that's bad, that there's all these circumstances that make it evil. Just that I cannot think, if you want to use like contemporary philosophical jargon, there is no possible world in where abortion is legitimate. Like there is not one single scenario I could imagine, right? But with IVF, I can very easily imagine one where you're not overproducing zygotes, you're not letting gay people use it, you're not using it as commodity. But let's say that there's two people that have difficulty having children who are married, and if let's say it was cheap enough where you just try once, rather than zygotes, you just try to do one, and if that fails, you go back and try to do it again, and so on and so forth. I don't really think that's commoditizing.
Is it possible to maybe this could be an answer then? Is it possible to get the sperm from the man without him committing a mortal sin? That'd be my question. Like, if you could find a way to get the sperm without him committing a mortal sin, that to me that's like intrinsically evil. And then if it's intrinsically evil, that step's required for the process at all. Then everything that falls from that first fact as well. Now, I don't know if there's a way to get around that, but I think that it's kind of intrinsic that he has to get them out in more facet.
Yeah, I mean, I think she said that's a good objection. Whether there is any like scientific way to get sperm out of you without you masturbating, right?
I'm not gonna stick a needle in your balls. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know if there is one. Yeah, I mean, and that's something that I would be more in agreement with. I don't know. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be mortally sinful if you just go in there with your wife and she sucks your dick and then puts it in there. I guess that'll be venially sinful, but it wouldn't be mortally sinful. But that would, that technically is still sodomy, but it's sodomy within a marriage that would, in general, if you went to confession for that, they would say that going to mass would wipe away that sin.
I think there's so many facets to the IVF question, whether it's how you get the materials, how the materials are produced, the excess of it. There's so many levels in there where there's the possibility or the high likelihood of immoral actions. That's a strictly regulated and controlled. I don't know if it's. I can imagine a hypothetical world where it is possible, but I don't know if that's a realistic ideal in reality.
Yeah, and I think that could be a fair one. You could just simply say that even though you can't think of a possible world, that you don't think it's realistic. But I guess because I don't find it impossible, I don't really see it as being in principle bad. I just see it as, can we really trust people not to abuse it? And I'll say, well, then no. Because in other facets, for example, within the natural law, we wouldn't say like glasses are evil. even though it's foreign object, but they're there to correct your vision.
Yeah,
and to me,
a prosthetic limb or something, like we would.
Right, a prosthetic limb is evil or whatnot. So it just seems as if you can avoid all of the overproduction of zygotes, if you could avoid it not being put into people that are not married, but simply trying to help those who are married to fulfill obligation for producing children and for rearing them. It seems like if you just limited to that and you made it cheap enough so you don't have to create so many zygotes, and it's hard for me to say then it's in principle wrong. And again, maybe there is a better argument out there. I really don't know. I just haven't heard one where somebody argued against IVF as principle evil. Rather, every argument I've ever heard is just that they kill a lot of the zygotes, which is true, right? Or that they or that gay people get it, or single mothers get it, or like you say, that it becomes a commodity. All those things are true and all those things are evil, but is that really an evil of scientifically taking a sperm and an egg and putting them in a petri dish and trying to make them grow, and then putting it back into the woman in order to fulfill the natural pregnancy? I don't know. Like to me, it doesn't really necessarily seem intrinsically wrong.
Unless we see massive technological change and cultural shifts, I think it's just a good baseline to have. Okay, we don't trust anybody right now to be doing this. Let's just knock this off for now. Maybe in the future we'll have technological advancements or cultures that can develop new ways. Another issue I think we're having is that the people who are doing the science are so towards the left of us that they're gonna not even have these kind of find better solutions. So okay, unless we have a massive shift where all sides become base Catholic theologians as well, I don't want them doing it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Because it does open up the door for a lot of evil, and I get that. It isn't. I'm trying to defend IVF. I'm just kind of playing the devil's advocate and trying to comprehend really where the evil lies, because every argument I've ever heard or read just lies in the accidental qualities of how it is practiced within the industry. The same way like
from that. I would say,
say it again.
This can be a fun transition from this topic. What about natural family planning? Because I think you and I might have a slightly different take on natural family planning.
Okay, yes, natural family planning, I think, is in principle evil. I don't see how it is not.
Okay, so my position on natural family planning is that you have to really get down into the physics of it all. Where when does the sex act end? Right? If we say sex for procreation, when does the sex act actually end? Does it end when you've
done the ejaculation of the sperm inside the vagina?
That's where it ends. Okay, because I would say if the whole point is if the whole point is the conception, it could take up to 5 days for the sperm to travel. There's 5 days on sex, but it's clearly an intrinsic part of the process. And so if you're gonna have days with this day is least likely here. There's still 5 days, and it's been shown that sperm can live up to 2 weeks, but on average it's 5 days. So if it's up to 2 weeks, and at that point we have no idea what makes it. This might be a bit of a God the gap thing, but I think it's completely reasonable to say it's up to God to determining how long the sperm travels or if it conceives or not. That's all up to him. Then if you're having sex on a day where it's like, we're least likely to get pregnant this day, so we're going to have sex this day. If it's God wills it, 2 weeks in the 2 weeks for the sperm to travel, you're fertile by then. It could absolutely still be a case where if the openness to life and everything, right? So if it's all about being open to life and open to God's decisions, then God could still will that sperm would then last the full 2 weeks to make it into the what's the word, ovulating period? I don't know anything about women.
Ovulation,
But, so if he could make it, so it's all for that. How to put this? These are an analogy, right? If you're making mac and cheese, this is a weird analogy. If you're making mac and cheese, the end step of mac and cheese is it being poured into the bowl. That's when you can eat it. But if say the pouring took 2 weeks to get into the bowl, when did you actually finish making the mac and cheese? Because it's done being cooked, it's just being poured in, So That's my kind of view of it. Like, okay, if it's up to 2 weeks, it can last, and then God could decide for it to last for 2 weeks and still conceive, then it's completely open to life, which is the main thing about sex being more immoral is the openness to life.
Okay, so I think there's a few problems there. I mean, the first problem is that when people practice natural family planning, they normally avoid it by start to have sex after ovulation, precisely because of saying, because they know there's a possibility that the sperm could live up there for 2 weeks. And so after the woman gets a period, they still avoid sex. And then they wait for the ovulation period to pass. And then they have sex, because after the ovulation period passes, you can't get pregnant. There really is no potential at that point, because after the ovulation and then normally 10 days after that, you get your period. And so they view it as a 10-day window there, then to fuck, and then then they get the period, and then they avoid sex during the period and during the first 10 days before the ovulation. And the ovulation normally happens for 1 day, but the egg can be lasted up to 3 days. And then they kind of just avoid it during that time specifically, but even the time before it, because they're aware that could happen. And so the way that they practice is that, but again, that would just be a practical cause of what I would say is evil. I would say in principle, the reason why it's evil is because you're avoiding to get pregnant, right? The reason why, for example, pulling out, according to the church, is evil is because you are willfully trying to not get pregnant. Now, studies have shown tremendously that pulling out only, I think they say, is a 70% chance of not getting pregnant, because there's a lot of pre-ejaculation that men have that sometimes they're not aware of as they're and so even that one many times has a greater likelihood of getting pregnant than practicing NFP. And yet it is still constituted as gravely immoral to pull out. So the reason why is because of the intent behind it. You are intentionally acting as if to deprive the act of conception to ever happen. And the same reason is for condoms. Even though condoms is 99% secure, there's still a 1% chance of getting pregnant with condoms. It could rip. There's many things that could happen with that, and so there is no form of contraception really that is 100%. I guess it has a 100% success rate. The highest is like 99%, and so the reason why they still claim those things to be evil, even though technically, if there was 1% chance of getting pregnant, you are kind of being open to life if you're still coming inside the condom, or if you're still coming inside of a woman, because when they take their hormone pills, one of the pills that they take throughout the month is a placebo, and so you could still say, well, they're still technically being open to life. One could still make that argument, and the reason why I don't buy any argument for NFP. You can use that exact same argument with any other form of contraception. And if your intention still is to not get pregnant, I don't really see how that intention in pulling out is more evil than with NFP, especially if you're going to be fucking after ovulation, because once the egg is released and gone, I mean, it's gone. And so you're not going to get pregnant. And,
well, I'm convinced. You sold me on it. I would say every time I have you on, it always evolves into some kind of sex talk, which is, fair enough. That's one of the most important things. But
right, That's why I think the just the natural way of not knowing and just fucking and see what happens. That's really the only attitude that's open to life, because you're just. Yeah, I remember just read. I think it was on Pints with Aquinas. I don't remember what this guy's name was, but he was defending NFP. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And he was he just kept saying that sometimes you may have a moral obligation not to have kids. And I was just thinking about that. I was like, Do you? I mean, when? When do you have a moral obligation not to have kids? I can't imagine a time. I can't imagine a possible world where that would ever be the case. And so even if I were to accept that, right? And so I could accept this fictitious reality where you have a moral obligation not to have a child when you're married, right? Obviously, if you're a priest, you have a moral obligation not to have a child. But if you're married, and let's say that you do have that, well, then just don't fuck, and then start fucking again when you have, I guess, the moral obligation to have a child. And so even if I were going to accept this weird situation that he poses and never gives an actual solid example when that is the case, the better solution then is to abstain. Like if somebody's trying to lose weight, you just abstain from food. You maybe eat 800 calories a day for a while, and then when you're in the weight that you want to be in, you start eating normal again. But yeah,
I'm on the carnivore diet. I'm eating as much as I want, but only meat. So it's
meat. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so you start depriving yourself of a good. And we all do that. And so let's say that there's a time where you lose your job and you have no money, and getting your wife pregnant would be a bad idea, I guess, at this point. Then I'll abstain until you find work, I guess. To me, it just seems, that's what you do.
It does seem to me
because you abstain.
Arguments and the theology of the body arguments seem to all stem from a position that it'd be wrong to tell people they shouldn't have sex if they're married.
Right.
I've noticed that when I've talked to Protestant people about this about sex stuff. It's a very the idea that sex could ever be bad, and I get that, but it's like, no, it's clearly examples when sex is bad.
Right.
Actually, no. When the sex was bad. Now, I like speaking of Christopher West, I like Christopher West. He got a few points where he's a little iffy, but I find him funny because he tries so hard not to be crass, and he gets asked the most crass questions possible, and he has to find him.
Yes,
Someone asked him. Someone in the Q&A said, "Not beating around the bush is over sinful." And he had a pause and go, "The seed should always end in the garden. Do you understand what I'm saying?" I find the endeavor to avoid being crass very funny.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that, but I think he falls into. I mean, listen, I assume you and I both love Saint Pope John Paul II. I don't think he was a fantastic intellect. I don't think he'll ever be a doctor of the church.
Yeah, I don't think he was. Yeah,
I think he's a very holy man. I agree. Great saint, but I have a friend obsessed with reading his philosophy books. So I'm like, you're wasting your time. You don't need to. He's a great saint. He's theological. His holy works.
He was a phenomenologist, and so there's a reason why it's pretty bad.
There's one good phenomenologist. His name is Saint Edith Stein. He wrote one book and was killed by Nazis. It's fine.
Yes,
What do you mean?
I actually, I don't know if you read Balthazar. He's a phenomenologist too. Yeah, I mean, again, not the greatest of intellect, but it's decent enough. It's interesting at least. I think
Dare to Hope is incredible. I love Dare to Hope.
Yes,
it's fantastic.
I think through his phenomenology, he was able to pull out certain truths that was kind of necessary for the contemporary world, and so I don't hate, but he also doesn't blow me away, and so it's kind of like, it's good, but anyways, I don't know, the whole NFP thing, I never saw a good reasoning behind it. I think it's even weird when people do that to get pregnant. There's something just a bit bizarre by being overly aware of your cycle to the point that you only want to have sex of pregnancy. It seems critical. You should just be open to the act of sex at any point, and and allowing nature to take its course. And it seems like that just should be the general attitude that one has in a marriage. It's yeah, you're open to life, you fuck. You're not so clinical that you're like counting the days. You're doing this act of love with your wife, which I think is an important thing, but it has to encompass all of that. And if you negate the primary purpose of it, which is to produce children, the secondary purpose is irrelevant at that point. And I think that's something that when we were in that Pints episode, is that it didn't seem like he understood. He was trying to say that the secondary purpose can exist on its own. It's like, no, that's the reason why secondary functions are only relevant when the primary function is being met. And so once you negate the primary function, the secondary function no longer becomes relevant. That doesn't become a justification for the act of anything, really. You know what I mean? It's like a primary function of food is for nutrition to your body. A secondary function, honestly, and people tend not to think of it this way, but a secondary function is the pleasure of the food, right? And so it gives you a glimpse of the beatific vision when you eat something that is tasty. And so that is a secondary function, is to titillate the senses and to give you that glory of God. Now, if you negate the primary function, which is nutrition to your body, and all you're doing is for the pleasure, it no longer becomes a good secondary function. You're negating its primary purpose, which is so that's why sometimes eating junk food is not necessarily a good thing if it lacks complete nutritional value. So if you're eating something that has zero nutrition, so like how some of the Haitians were literally cooking clay and eating clay, it's like there's
the Chinese hot stones. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Again, they're not people. They're not people. That's just.
But anyways, just you finish that point. It's just like, and so when you look at the act of sex, when you negate the primary function, the secondary function is not really relevant anymore. You can't just exist in the secondary function, which is for the union and the closeness of the husband and wife. Because if that's what you and then condoms do the same thing. Pulling out does the same thing and everything. And so you still get close to your spouse if you're fucking with those things. Probably not as close, but you're still getting close.
Yeah. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. What else to talk about? Oh, this could be fun. Great people. Great men of history.
Oh, yes.
Napoleon, Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great. I would say Hannibal Lecter.
Adolf Hitler.
I mean, yeah, kind of. You can't deny it. He didn't, he fixed Germany. That's all I want to say. He saved Germany.
Yes. Yeah. And many things he said wasn't necessarily wrong.
No, I mean,
it's
the Jews not having a home he's dead on.
Yes.
he wasn't wrong. It's a problem. I mean, that's like
he wasn't wrong. I mean, he said they were controlling the media. They were controlling films. They were controlling entertainment, and they were polluting the minds. So I do want to talk about great men, but I do kind of want to a little bit talk about Hitler, just because.
Sex and Hitler, man, this is a great podcast.
Yes. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Now, obviously, the talk of Hitler has gotten me in trouble in the past. But there's something about him that the more that we think of these things, and the more that we kind of investigate the realities of that time period, the less evil he becomes. Right. So when you think about who was he really fighting against, if anybody really, I don't know if Grant told you, but like during the summer, when the whole AI craze happened, I probably listened to roughly 10 hours of AI speeches from Hitler translated.
I did the same.
Did you? Yes, yeah.
They were great.
They're great, right? Just phenomenal speeches, but also just true, right? Just how accurate they were in what he was saying, and nowhere did he talk about the master race. We've been told this when we were young, right? That he thought that the Aryan race was man. No, he never actually said that. Nowhere does he just say. Like, I read harsher things about the Jews by Nietzsche and by Martin Luther. Like those two, I would say you want to hear some anti-Semitic things. Those two would say mostly he was insulting a lot of the European allies who wouldn't take the Jews. He was insulting them for kind of inciting the war. At least according to him, but then when you zoom out and there's that one historian that Tucker Carlson brought in that talked about it pretty interestingly, and I don't remember his name, but when you step back and you think that England allied with the Soviets, allied with the communists who were Stalin and Lenin, the Bolsheviks who were the Jewish, and Stalin who was not. But you have these group of people who massacred a lot more, that were much more evil both in its ideology and its actions, and we claimed that we were the good guys. Yeah. And when you really think about it, what was Hitler fighting against? Hitler really was fighting against the evils of the Bolsheviks. He was fighting against the evils of really the transgender, because he banned a lot of transgender books that were being written by the Jews during that time. Because
one of the first transgender surgeries was done in Germany, in the Weimar Republic.
Yes. And a lot of people don't realize that the Talmud actually talks about genderless people. It's very weird. It also says that, Jesus is burning in hell with feces and semen, and that the mother of God is a whore. I mean, this is what Hitler was fighting against. And how is that bad, really? When you really think about it, how is it bad to fight against these kind of social movements that really infects the culture and society to intrinsic evils that we have seen now happened in the U.S., what was it, 80, not 80, but like 60 years later, really infest our culture. Just this really evil, demonic ideologies that were presented a lot by the rabbinics as well as the communists and many of the I guess the 20th century ideologies that I wanted to be eradicated. Yeah. Those ideas to be eradicated from society. Now, maybe his actions of how to eradicate that wasn't good, but the idea to eradicate degenerate art, the idea to eradicate Bolshevism, the idea to eradicate transgenderism, and all of these things from society, that's not a bad thing.
E. Michael Jones makes this great point. It's like during the Weimar Republic, they couldn't get food, but they kept getting the latest porn. Like the blockade wouldn't let food through, but it would let porn through. And it's like, okay, that's who runs the porn? Who runs the porn companies again? Remind me. It's like
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
Who owns OnlyFans now, and who owns Pornhub? And so it's.
Did you see all Kanye stuff on Twitter about porn?
Yeah, I did. Yes, yeah.
Much as I'm all over the place when it comes to Kanye, that might be the funniest tweet ever. I want to thank the Jews for creating porn. I love porn. Thank you. It's such a wild tweet. It's such an insane thing to say.
He is crazy, man. There's something endearing about him to me, though. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people that hate him. I don't hate Kanye. I think there's something. There's something there.
He reminds me of my favorite bipolar homeless friends. They're wild, they're fun. When they're on a bad day, you want to avoid them. But when they're riding high, you want to be sitting there right there with them talking for hours.
Yes.
They're just incredible. You know? And that's where
Like
that's where he is, a homeless guy.
His Super Bowl ad where he had people link into his website for this, had a thumbnail of a t-shirt with a swastika on it. That's beautiful. That was good.
He's like, I spent all this money on some new tees. Here's a link to my website. He's
but anyway, like you said, great men in history, and I think Napoleon falls in the same line. You know, and Napoleon was you know, he was in a way a product of the French Revolution, but he also was somebody who was trying to fight against that, to try to reimpose a sense of monarchy with his leadership. And, you know, I don't know, it seemed like these people in history, the same thing with, what's the guy from Spain?
Franco.
During World War II. Yes, yeah, Franco. Mussolini. These people who we been taught were like villains of history, I don't really think they were. They were villains of liberalism, really, in the end. They were people who were trying to destroy liberalism, but ultimately failed. And unfortunately, yeah. And I think the more, and I think AI has changed so many young people's minds, right? Now, like we've known each other at least through online and through our podcast for many years now, right? And so even before the AI, I've spoken this way about Hitler. But I do think that what AI did was finally bring to people what he actually said and done, and what that is doing, and it seems like this is the case with a lot of young people, they're just not buying the narrative anymore.
Well, I think it's two things. One, there's been a real rejection to the there's three ways to do history. There's great man approach, where you focus on the great men of history, the correct way to do it. There's bottom up, when you focus on the civil rights leaders and the protesters and those kind of people. And then there's Thaddeus Russell's approach, it's gutter up, when you focus on the rejects and degenerates of society to see how they normalize things. His way is the most fun. It's funny, you know. I know I'm not a big fan of the guy. I know you aren't either, but his book on American history is just hilarious. He goes through how women were able to buy property because they got jealous of the fact that a madam who ran whorehouses bought property. That's just funny.
Who wrote this?
Thaddeus Russell.
Which is? Did he? Nice. Okay, yeah.
An American history book on he called it the gutter up approach, where he goes through normalize making fun of black people, minstrel shows, and it's just it's a wild book, but it's really funny. But I think it's been a real,
because he is a trained historian, right? That's where he got his degrees in.
Historian, I think he's a historian or a philosopher. I can't remember.
Okay, yeah. But anyways, there's probably a lot of truth to that. I actually don't.
I know he didn't get his PhD or something because they didn't like the fact that he wrote negative. He quoted the really bad stuff of Martin Luther King, and so they wouldn't give him his PhD.
That's good.
I've said it for a while now. Martin Luther King sucks. Malcolm X is way better. We should all be quoting Malcolm X.
100%.
Malcolm X is the greatest.
Yes, yeah.
When I was in St. Augustine, I went to a black diaspora bookstore where they had a bunch of books on black spirituality and black history, and they had this great biography of Malcolm X.
Nice.
It was. I almost bought one of those little orange and black African hats, but after walking up and talking to the owner, an older black guy, I'm like, yeah, man, I love Malcolm X. Y'all need Marcus Garvey? And he's like, you read Marcus Garvey? I'm like, I love Marcus Garvey. I figured going from this super white guy walking in and asking about Malcolm X and I bought a book on Rhodesia. My friend bought a book, but my friend bought Mein Kampf for $9. I figured it'd be a really weird purchase to buy the African hat so I could wear it on podcast. I figured it'd be a weird.
Nice. Yes, yeah.
guy's really cool. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to insult him. I'm going to find it online.
Yeah.
Malcolm X is just.
No, I agree.
If you like, to the end of his life, he was like, no, I was wrong. The white man, the black man can exist together as long as they all are under Islam. I'm like, you're so close, buddy. It's Catholic, not Islam. You're so close.
Yes, yeah.
One hair is off. Catholic is universal, buddy. It's right there. It's right there.
Yes, yeah.
That, everything would have been fine. Speaking of that, have you heard of Dr. Umar? Dr. Umar Johnson. Have you heard of him? Okay. He is a black Pan-Africanist. He wants all black people to go back to Africa. He is hilarious. He's on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. He's all about, he wants to create a black economic bloc where black people are no longer on the Democrat voting plantation. And he wants them to be an own economic bloc where the money stays in black communities instead of leaving black communities. But he's very anti-race mixing. And so the liberals hate him. He went on ESPN where one of the black hosts was calling him a racist and doing all the insults. And Dr. Umar just went, first of all, your wife is right. So we're going to stop with the black talk right there. It's just insane. So he's been trying to build a school in Atlanta called the Marcus Garvey Academy of Black Excellence. It's going to be a black-only school, teaching black economics, black history, black spirituality, all that kind of stuff, just to raise up, proper black people to go and, succeed instead of getting handouts from the government. Great idea. He has been trying to build it for years because he's only wanted to hire black construction companies, black plumbers and such, and it keeps failing because they keep ripping him off. He hopped on a live stream and he said, why is it that when I hire you, I'm going to quote him, coon ass niggas, you always rip me off? I had to hire a white plumber to fix the job and finish it. He started having to hire white people to finish the building because black people kept ripping him off. And it's tragic, but it's also hilarious. It's incredible.
It kind of reminds me. I do remember where this was. I can't remember where this was. But they were celebrating a team of women. So it was all a women team of engineers who built a bridge, and right after they built it, it collapsed that same day. And it's that same thing. It's like, yes, there's a reason why women do not get into engineering, man.
There's a good reason.
Not. Yes, yeah.
This is one of my favorite jokes from the TV show 30 Rock. Two of the characters find out that two of the right wing stand-in characters find out having a daughter, and the mom goes, "I'm worried about her spatial reasoning." That's a great joke. No, I am actually worried. I was looking into this. Apparently, like 60% of jobs that the black middle class possess aren't real jobs. The DEI, NGO, and patronage jobs. That if Elon Musk does disrupt USAID and through Doge, they all might lose their jobs. So it's been 60% of the black middle class would go on welfare. Terrible. It's funny, but it's also, they're going to protest. They're going to riot. It's going to be violent. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, that's going to be horrible.
Yeah, if they all lose their job and go on welfare, and they're all going to blame Trump, Elon Musk, and they're going to blame Whitey, and we're going to get the George Floyd riots again. It's going to be awful.
Yeah, shit. I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
because we don't need more distractions. That would just give so much distraction with Trump's administration that would suck. But it might happen. I mean, shit. They're still trying. They're still trying everything. They couldn't manage to kill him before, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, did try now.
Did you see what he tweeted out last week? He tweeted out a Napoleon quote. He tweeted out a Napoleon quote.
I did see that. Yeah, of course.
King who saves his country violates no law. The second greatest Napoleon quote. The best Napoleon quote was in a letter to his brother during the French Revolution, during all the rioting. It was after fired cannons into a crowd of people, and he said, "The mob thinks himself invincible. Kill a few of them, and the fun ends, and everyone goes home." 100% correct.
Yeah, that definitely.
Like, I've been listening to Andrew Roberts has like this 40-hour audiobook on the life of Napoleon, and it's incredibly detailed. Every letter he wrote, every essay, everything he wrote was in there. It's a very, very good book. But one of the things I was thinking about is like Napoleon, when he was going to his military academy, the approach the teachers had was called a great man approach. So when they taught someone history, they always focused on the great men. But when they taught someone math, they focused on Newton and the math. So there was always a great man associated with the subject matter.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and that
yeah.
inspired everyone to be greater. I'm like, yeah, that's obvious. Obviously, if you if you tell a bunch of 9-year-olds how great Alexander was, they're gonna want to be like him.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So the rejection of great man theory and the destruction of how we don't teach great men theory in schools anymore. It's like, yeah, no wonder everyone sucks and no one wants to be great. We don't teach them about greatness. They're terrified of greatness. We have little shows.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think that's a good point, that even just academically, we don't really teach that. There's like the other day, and again, like when Grant and I were recording podcasts, I remember that the episodes that even our listeners always got triggered the most is when I would talk about things like depression not really being a real thing. Is really like people would get really, really, really butthurt by that. But there is this reality. I was asking a few people this the other day is because just from my personal experience, I don't actually know what anxiety is. Right. So the best description I got from somebody was like this intense fear of the unknown. I don't know if that's how you would describe it, right? But at least that's how it was described to me by somebody, because I really was trying to ponder this. You know, there was this one time where I was extremely scared that I was in college, and it was like a college trip, and so me and my friend went rappelling off of a mountain, and like I got disconnected, so I actually just like fell, but luckily there was a ledge right there, and so I didn't die. And so during that time, that was kind of an intense fear, right? But I don't think that's understood as anxiety. Maybe it is, maybe it is, but I remember that was intense fear. Just recently, this past summer, as you know, I don't think a lot of listeners know, but I was in a motorcycle accident and I broke 6 ribs and my collarbone. Now, when I got into the accident, I literally was flying in the air, right? And I kind of remember the moment of flying in the air, and that's a bit scary because you're just thinking to myself, "Oh shit, I might die," and that's really the only thing that pops into your head as you're flying, because it happens so rapidly, and then you kind of use your instincts to try to roll, and that's what I did. I rolled, but in the rolling, I kind of impacted my shoulder, and impacting the shoulder broke the ribs. It was just like an impact that came all the way down, but it could have been a lot worse than what it was.
You had some nasty road rash. Now, I will say you had some nasty looking road rash.
Yes, yeah, I'm really bad road rashes on my hand and my leg. Like I couldn't use my knee probably for 5 months because it took such a huge chunk of flesh off of my knee. That it was just scab, but now it's a little better. Actually, you could still feel where the scab is, so completely normal. But anyways, and so like those were instances in that in my life I could think of like this intense fear, I guess, of the unknown, because as you're falling from a mountain or you're flying through the air, you're not fully aware of what's going to happen, right? You lose control. Right, it's just like you cannot control at that moment, and so there is a bit of holy shit, I don't know what I'm doing now. Talk about anxiety, like young people that I think that are experiencing that a lot, at least chronic anxiety. Would you describe? But like I don't know if you've ever felt anxiety. I'm not trying to presume that you did, but maybe people that you've interacted with, how would you describe that? Would you describe that similar to like falling off of a mountain, like the losing of control?
No, I
Okay.
would describe anxiety. So I've never really dealt with it besides like one instance when I was a little anxious,
Okay.
or not a little anxious, very anxious.
Yeah.
I would describe it as, at least in people I see, I think there's two kinds of anxiety. You have to kind of make
Yeah.
this distinction. There's social anxiety, and then there's existential anxiety. Most people don't really deal with the second one. They only deal with the first one. They give it a general label of anxiety. But really,
Okay.
I think more people suffer from a social anxiety, and it's a how do I put this? It is the fear that overwhelms you and thinking that everyone around you, at any moment, you're going to do the wrong thing, and everyone's going to hate you forever. You know, like I remember one time I dealt with it. It was like right when I was deciding to become Catholic. I was at my parents' Protestant church, and the worship service was going on, and everyone was clapping and speaking in tongues, and I'm like, I don't feel right in this room. Everything's wrong. I'm gonna get everybody upset. Oh fuck! I'm gonna go. And I ran out. I was like, I'm out. I can't do this.
Yeah.
That's the closest I could think of. Is that it's kind of like it's a social. It's more of a social thing. You think everyone around you is just going to reject you completely, and they're going to be completely ostracized from the community. That's how I understand. At least how people I know who experience social anxiety, who end up quitting their jobs because they can't stand to go to work anymore because they think everyone hates them. It's much more this feel that you're just going to be ostracized completely for some minor fuck up, and everyone's going to pounce on you immediately. That seems more. At least I don't know about general like existential anxiety, but to me, whenever someone have anxiety, it's always related socially because they always want to be alone. But if you're actually anxious about finances or any other these kind of things, you kind of want to sit down and sleep. But if you're anxious and you're just like pacing back and forth and freaking out, it's much more of a social thing. And I think more people experience the social anxiety rather than the existential anxiety.
So how would you describe the existential one? Would you say that's more chronic? Like when people talk about wanting to be medicated for their anxiety, do you think it's more of an existential one than a social, or no?
I think they want to be medicated for both because everyone wants to just jump to drugs rather than solving a problem.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
But I would say the existential anxiety is like I didn't experience it when I was in Alaska and I was trying to figure out how the fuck I'm gonna afford to stay up there. I remember thinking, I remember thinking I should be anxious because I can't afford any of my bills this month. Yeah, but fuck it, I'll figure it out. And I just had a fucking attitude the whole time. Probably explains why I moved back. I think people I know who have kind of dealt with it. It's much more like a financial anxiety, but it's related to a preconceived notion of where they think they ought to be at this point in life and where they're not meeting that standard. And so it's much more of a fear like, okay, I'm not measuring up to my imposed standard upon myself. That's much more like existential anxiety.
Okay. Yeah. So you think it's just more related to the do you think it's necessarily like something they impose on themselves, or maybe just a realization that they're not fulfilling what they ought to be doing? Maybe something in general that way, like there are two general vocations in most societies, right? There's either getting married or becoming a clergy of some sort, right? And so even if you're like your favorite religion, a Hindu or a Buddhist, you become a Buddhist monk for a while, because the Buddhist monks are a little different because you can go in and out of those, but like you would invest your time into that, or in a Catholic faith, you could become a priest or a monk or whatever there. And on, right? And pagan religions are the same thing. Like essentially that. Do you think a lot of the anxiety comes about people are just not fulfilling like the most base teleology of their, I guess, vocation? Like there's something they ought to be doing, or do you think that would be wrong?
I think that's one of them. I think there's three different ways people experience that, or at least interpret that moment. Is they're not fulfilling the purpose that they think they're upon us for. They don't know what that is, but it's an intense feeling of being unfulfilled. I think would be one. Okay. The other kind would be the social idea that like here's a great example. Everyone my age growing up imagine that by the time I'm 19, by the time I'm 21, I'll be on my own, live in my own apartment or something. And in the housing market's been a shit show, and people are really struggling to make ends meet and get their own place. And so that kind of
Yeah,
social standard has been imagined social standard has not been met, so they feel like a failure compared to their peers. Would be the second kind.
Okay.
I think the third kind would be how do I put the third kind? They aren't measuring up to they feel like a failure because they don't know what it is about what's going on in their life, but they know they're failing at something, but they're not sure what it is, and so they're anxious about not knowing what the failure actually is. They know they're not happy, they're miserable, something's wrong, but they can't pinpoint what it is that's wrong, and so they're anxious about like, okay, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Okay, I have this, I'm doing this, I got this, I have this, what am I missing? And they start freaking out about what they don't have, not knowing what it is. I think those would be like the three different categories of Zen world anxiety.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because it's just one of those things that I was thinking about just because, you know, some people talk to me about it, and in all honesty, like I to even just existentially understand what they mean. Like I could understand it maybe like how you explained it to me on an intellectual level, but existentially, I don't know really what they mean, because it seems like whenever something like what you're saying, like, you know, a lack of purpose or a lack of meeting your goal or whatever has come about in my life, I simply acted in the world in order to fulfill that. Right, because I think what you're saying that the general feeling is what most people would at least get at some point, but then I just immediately been like, okay, if that is what my standard is, that's what I want, then that's what I'm going to get.
Yeah,
and then one acts in the world.
There's a big issue, specifically with my generation, where I would loop this back to great men. I will loop this back into, I think, we don't have examples of great men because the idea that someone could be great implies that someone is not great. And the idea that someone's not great is just impossible. You know, here's a great example. We never say fail at life. We say less likely to succeed. You know, we're obsessed with positivity. This is one of Byung-Chul Han's points, that we're a positivity-obsessed society, where even the idea of the negative is so, like, I'm sure you've heard this. People say they're scared to be alone with their own thoughts because it gets negative. It's like, are you that scared of your own mind? Yes. That's pathetic. Yeah. 2, of course it's negative. Yeah. You're a failure. You should feel bad. You are a loser. You should feel bad about that.
Yeah,
but we're so obsessed with positivity that anytime you feel any negativity,
that should be the motivation, really. And I think that's what I don't understand. It's like then that should be the motivation. It's like you reflect on yourself and you're like, I'm a failure at this, and this, and so those are the things I'm going to work on. And now I have at least a goal, and I'm motivated because I just don't want to be a loser like that anymore. Because we all are losers in one aspect of our life or another, or many aspects of our lives. We just are, and those aspects of our lives we should be working on to try to perfect, and constantly, you know, to make better and everything. But I don't know, like I why there isn't this like immense desire and drive, I guess, to simply overcome all of that, because that's I don't know, why not just kill yourself? That's the way I feel like.
It's 2 things. It's one, you had the example that you could model that drive, right? You had your dad, you know, I've heard stories about him, you told me about him. You can model that kind of drive. I can model my dad. I can model my grandfather. I could model people from history like Napoleon or Julius Caesar. You know, I could model. I could model that drive. This is like a Rene Girard point. Like we model things, right? I think because we've got great men and everyone's kind of a lot of people are pathetic. You know. I know friends who have no positive example in their life, and they have no history, so they have no positive examples at all to model. And so if you don't have an idea of how to model, if you have no model of that drive, of that masculine urge to go out and conquer and succeed, you would just try to escape it through drugs. And I think that's what we're experiencing now. You know?
Yeah. And yeah. I mean, that would make sense. If then they just get escapism through drugs and fantasy, I guess.
Video games, video games, TV shows, and drugs. You know,
right? Yes, yeah. Yeah, because they're like, probably the time. Now that you explain it to me a little more, probably the time that I would say I felt the most anxious, if that's what you could describe it, really was like when I just went through the whole public cancellation thing. That was something that, I wonder how I can provide for my family. I have a lot of kids. I have a lot of people who I'm, and so yeah, but I took that day, I took that evening, and I slept in my studio, and everything, and I just try to make a game plan. Really, that's really what I do, because what else am I going to do? It's like I'm either going to be proactive or I'm going to die, I guess.
There's a real lack of being proactive. I have several friends who started getting anxious about their jobs, and they just decided to quit their jobs and say, "I want to smoke weed all day." Just get and escape. Like, listen, I'm gonna say, if you smoke weed every day, that's the coward's suicide alternative. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Right, yes, yeah.
And you're just too scared to pull the fucking trigger. Okay, that's just what you got.
I know, yeah. Yeah, because I could have just cried myself to sleep, whatever, and I could have just done nothing. I could have done drugs. Family, I said, fuck it, I don't have the responsibility anymore. But no, I started a fucking food truck, and then I bought a fucking restaurant, and now like I just did my taxes, and I'm like making $500,000, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's how you fucking do it, that's what you do.
You had responsibilities, and my generation is so terrified of responsibility.
Yeah,
they're absolutely terrified, and the hatred of children is a fear of responsibility. They absolutely feel like, and I've made this point to all my friends. It's like you will never mature into responsibility. That's the exact opposite. Responsibility is thrust upon you, mature to meet it. You always mature to meet it.
Yes, yeah.
You're never ready for it. And so they're so fearful of responsibility, they never matured to conquer it. So when they have responsibilities thrust upon them, they haven't had any smaller responsibilities. They go from living with their parents to, in most cases, living with their girlfriend and maybe her brother or something, and then they bought. And now it's like, well, I have all these responsibilities, and I have no smaller responsibilities along the way.
Yeah, because it does kick you in the ass. When you have responsibilities, you have to meet it or you run away. You're going to be some pathetic loser that runs away, or you have to meet up to it, and you will find a way. That's the thing that I would say to most people. I say you will find a way, even if you have to fucking steal. You're gonna find a way to feed your. You just will, because you finally negate yourself in every possible way, and then you just start doing what is fucking necessary, and And I think that's why, like, the idea is like, what we talked about earlier with natural family planning, where it says you might have an obligation not to have kids. It's like, no, I mean, because trust me, if you lose your job and then you get your wife pregnant, you're going to put yourself to work to some capacity, even if you have to work 2 or 3 jobs. So we say, fine, I just got her pregnant. Getting her pregnant actually now motivates you to be a fucking man. It just does.
Nowadays, we have so many ways to escape it. Contraception, abortion, adoption. There's so many, not just crap on adoption, but there's so many ways that people to try to escape responsibility is thrust upon them, and society has created so many alternatives to this responsibility from you. And so the responsibility is actually thrust upon people now. They can just go, well, I don't want that. I want to continue being irresponsible. It's like, well, you're never going to mature.
Right. Yeah, so you're never going to mature. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think you're just never going to grow out of the rut that you're in. And maybe there's some people that just don't have the capacity for some things. I get that, right? We all have limitations. But guess what other things that we do have? We do still have, okay, I guess if you're a quadriplegic, but let's say you got arms and you got legs and you got functioning body parts. And the only way to provide for your wife that you just got pregnant after losing a job that was paying you a certain amount of money is now you have to work 3 jobs. Well, then fucking do it. And then, you just have to adopt a new sleeping schedule where you take 2 short sleep times rather than 1 long one, whatever. But you can do it.
You have to suffer.
Yes. You just have to suffer. Exactly. Maybe people aren't as crazy as I am and just taking the last bit of money that you have and investing. So like and we talked about the episode that Grant never released. So I'll put it in this one, right? So let me explain to people, the dire situation that I was in, and so like I lost my job with the state. I had to close my business down because people in Anchorage are a bunch of libs, and it was just it wasn't working out for me, and so I had to close everything down, and I had nothing. And I got my last few pay from the state, and I paid the mortgage as much as I could. And I was looking for work, but if I tried to find another job to be a professor, they could just Google my name, and there's going to be that news article that claims that I'm like a rape apologist and a Hitler sympathizer. And so it's like I couldn't find work, I couldn't do anything, and ultimately I was unable to pay my mortgage, right? And I had a little money saved over. I only had $20,000 saved, but you have to realize that I had a job that paid pretty well, and I was making $110,000 with the state, and I had it. But let's say I only had $5,000, I still would have done something. But I had $20,000, which was a good chunk of money, and I just thought to myself, well, what can I invest this in? What can I do now? Because I could just pay maybe my mortgage for the next few years and keep applying next few work, or I could invest this and see whether I could make something of it, right? And so because of that, I just didn't pay my mortgage for 3 months, and I was at the brink of being foreclosed, and so what I did was then I took that money and I purchased a shitty ass like food wagon, right? It wasn't even a food truck. I have a truck, and so I could take it, but it was like an attachment to go in the back of the truck, a trailer, and then I just bought a 5-gallon of paint, and I painted the outside. I went on Etsy and I purchased a logo. And then I just learned plumbing because it didn't really have plumbing in there. So like I need water so I could pass the inspection so I could sell food. And then I installed my own hood vent, and I found this really rusted out shitty hood vent that somebody had. And it was way too long. It was like 20 feet, and not 20 feet. But it was big. But it was way too big for the food truck. And so then I got some tools from what is that? The angle grinder from Lowe's. That was relatively cheap, and then I just shrunk it to size, and then I learned how to solder it together. It was a lot of work, but I knew I had to make money because I had to pay my mortgage, right? And shit, I don't have much time left. Everybody was telling me it's going to take about a year. I did it in 30 days. I would wake up every morning at 6 a.m. I would work on the plumbing. I had to learn how to do plumbing because I've never done it. And then I had to learn how to do the hood vent and everything. I got the inspection going, and within 30 days, I was able to take it out there. And then, obviously, it was the first. It was a disaster. It was horrible. It was just horrible. It's embarrassing to remember. I was like, I don't know what I was doing. I never ran a food truck before, but I did it. And I made a little bit of money. I was like, fuck, not enough. I made like $300, but it was $300. It was whatever. I invested all this money, and I invested money in the food, and I went out there, and I didn't know where to go after that. Everywhere else wanted me to pay rent, like $3,000 for the month to park there. And so I went to, somebody told me, it's like, well, a lot of times these pot shops, because here in Alaska, weed is legal and everything. And so there's a bunch of pot shops. They said they just let you park there for free. So I was like, really? Okay. So I went to a pot shop and I asked them, hey,
It's the most insane part about Alaska, honestly, is you walk by any pot stop, there's like a food truck selling Philly cheesesteaks and a line full of employees. It's incredible. It's the greatest food you're ever gonna have, and it's just a line full of blood-eyed stoners going, that one, and it's the greatest food you're ever gonna have. But it's so insane that every pot stop has a food truck next to it.
It is
just making a killing.
Yeah. That's right. I parked there, and after all of this investment that I made, I literally had $40 left. All right. So just think about that. Let's say you have a mortgage due and they want to foreclose in about a few days from there. And I told nobody in my family what was going on. They just trusted me. I was like, okay. And $40 left. I bought the meat that is needed for it because I had like the rotating spit for the meat. I had the meat and I seasoned it and I put it out there. I was like, this is all I have, right? And right before I opened, I did an entire rosary. I was like, okay, what is your will, whatever, right? And we opened up that day, and people just started coming, and it was like it was just the beginning, right? I had $40 left when I left that day. It wasn't an immense amount, but from $40 to $800. It was a lot for me, right? I was like, I have $800. The next day, I went back to the same spot. I invested it back into the food, and I got like another $800. And then it just started to grow from there. We just started to do Facebook posts and, all the social media, and people started coming, and it didn't stop from there. That's the thing. It just didn't stop. And then this place right here that I'm at right now was for sale. And I took with the rest of the money that I had, which was about $60,000, that I saved up from everything. I was like, well, I'm just going to see what I could do. I worked out a deal where I could put down $60,000 and I could pay the rest of the purchase on a monthly basis. And it just started to grow from there, right? And that's the thing that I think people need to realize is that, when people like me say things that something like nothing really is impossible, we mean that hyperbole, right? Like I get it and fly, right? Yes, that is impossible. But really, when you think about the possibility of your actions, it really is limitless to within the confines of reality. Mm-hmm. Right. If you truly say to yourself, I want to make an X amount of money, right? Let's say right now you're at a job and you're making, I don't know what's the like 40,000, maybe 35,000, 45,000. I'm not sure. And you look at that situation and be like, I want more, right? I want to be making maybe 100,000. I want to make 200,000. Well, whatever the goal is that you put out there, I want to make $1 million. Whatever the fucking thing is, right? There is always a path to that. Like it is not impossible for anybody out there to say, I want to make an X amount of dollars. But what it will require is risk. You cannot make that kind of money. You cannot have any kind of success without that initial risk. You need that risk, right?
Risk and will. That's what it requires.
Yes, risk. And the second thing is will. Is you have to do what it takes to achieve that. Truly, right? If you put limits to your own actions, if you think that virtually everything you can do within trying to get that money is immoral, then you limit yourself. You just do. Now, obviously, you don't want to get into pornography. You don't want to get to do other things that are just intrinsically immoral there. Mm-hmm. But you have to realize that a lot of this financial things, it is truly gamesmanship. It is a game. If you ever play Monopoly, if you ever played anything, that's what it is, right?
Like playing Monopoly with you is brutal. I've never played with you, but I imagine you're just brutal in Monopoly, Jeremy.
Yes, it is. Ever since I was a kid, actually.
I would never play Monopoly with you. Never. Just knowing you, that'd be an infuriating game. I wouldn't do it. It sounds torturous.
After you realize that the world, there's just money out there, right? There's money out there in the world, and you could just take it. That's really what it is, right? Now how you take it, that's what it is. You could take it ethically, or you could take it unethically, but it's out there, and it exists. And if you, what were you going to say?
I would say I think this gets into a point where there's definitely an overabundance of a certain class that we don't want to talk about, that Aristotle talks about. There are a lot of natural born slaves who are just not going to be able to succeed on their own. And we need to have systems in place, like good Christian bosses who will employ the retarded. You know?
Yes, yeah. And that's why I said we are all limited to at least the capacity that we have, but also what we place ourselves into. But I guess I'm just mostly talking to the people that truly want more. Want more. It is out there for you to get. You might not want to do what is necessary to get it. But it is out there for anybody to get. And it's and it doesn't matter really what your situation is. You could be working at McDonald's right now, but you can make strategic moves that can get you at least to a situation where one wants to be. But you're right. I think for the most part, most people have that entrepreneur spirit, because it does take that it does take the reality that you have to be willfully, I guess, entertained by risk. You do. Because if risk just gives you anxiety, if the idea of I don't know whether this is going to work, or the idea that I don't know whether I could make next month's rent or mortgage bills, if that brings great stress to you, that's going to give you a heart attack. Yeah, then you just have to remain a slave. That's just the reality.
There's two things I want to say to all that. Was actually two things. One, 100%, exactly right. If you have if you think you have the capacity to succeed and go forth and do it, then you should be doing it. And it's really it's a matter of will and risk. If you're able to will yourself to sustain the risk, then you should do it. Not doing it would be a privation of what you were meant to be. Also, there are natural born slaves. Like, here's a great little story. When I came back, the week before I came back to Florida, my dad, I work for my dad. I'm a nepotism. I love nepotism. I'm hired by my dad. It's great.
I love it too.
Great. He fired my cousin, because my cousin is, I love him to death. He's kind of retarded. He's a very retarded person. I love him to death. He's retarded. Great guy, nicest guy you'd ever meet, but retarded. And I had to convince my boss, my dad. I had to go, listen, okay? He's a slave. He's a natural born slave. Okay, it is a mark of Christian virtue and sincerity to hire him back, employ him, and take care of him. Okay, you should do that.
Right.
He'll never quit. He'll never leave. He'll be here forever. He's a natural born slave. He'll have a constant employee. Just hire him, and it'd be a mark of. Anytime he fucks up, it's a mark of Christian virtue and sincerity. You don't fire him. Okay, it's great for everybody. And he hired him back. He hired him back on that argument that he's a natural born slave.
That's good, actually.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. And the other thing I would say is that people were so obsessed with positivity and so fearful of any negative interaction or negative feeling or negative emotion that risk. Every gamble involves the possibility of failure. Every risk involves failure, and that negativity crushes people because they're not used to it. They're so scared of negativity, like I said earlier, they can't be alone with their own thoughts. You know, there are people who leave their Alexa playing music while they're gone, so they come home to fanfare, so that they're not bombarded with their own thoughts. Like they play Alexa music, they play music all the time. So they have headphones in when they leave, and they come home to music, so that they're never alone with their own thoughts, because the thoughts will remind them that, hey, you're failing right now, you're fucking up. And they're so terrified of that they have to chase off these fearful thoughts with music at all times. And it's a tragedy, really. It really is. It's tragic, but it's also pathetic at the same time.
Yes.
It's pathetic. You have to be able to deal with negativity.
Oh yeah, you definitely do.
You can't. And they really, and I'll blame this not just on the individual, but society itself is so. I mean, like I said, with teachers, it's like, past like. Do people, do schools still do passing, failing, or is it still mostly on grades now? You know,
I don't know.
B+, B-. It's like, really, just pass and fail, pass fail. That's all it is. All you need. You just succeed or you didn't succeed. You succeed or you didn't succeed. The degrees of success are not really necessary.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and I feel like at least for men, even the slaves, right? Even the slave men, they have to know what it is like to fail. You just have to. Yes. It gives you character, and it makes you realize that it really isn't that scary. It's just,
Alaska, my move to Alaska and my failure to stay and my move back has grown me as a person in more ways, in so many different ways.
Oh yeah,
it was incredible.
Yes.
I fully admit I failed. I did not last. I didn't even last to the winter.
Yeah. In
my defense, I was gonna get laid off in October, and I did not want to be stranded up there with no job. That was my main reason for moving back. It's like I don't want to be stranded because they would have closed the roads. I would not want to have been stranded and jobless. Be stranded and jobless in Alaska. Because I know what have happened. Yeah. My mom would have been like, here's some money to help you get by, and I would have felt terrible taking the charity of my parents. So I moved back.
Yes. Right, yeah. But also, you driving up here alone already took balls. It did.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Driving up here is not an easy trip. Yes, it's not an easy trip either. 14 days
on the road. It nearly drove me insane.
Yeah. Yes,
Like the ninth day, I was talking to my Kermit stuffed animal I brought with me to put on myself. I was talking to it like it was an actual person. I have done that trip.
I've done the trip 11 times. I have never done it by myself. I've never done it by myself, honestly. I think doing it maddening. But yeah,
it's a crazy situation, especially when you go into the Yukon or to like when you hit North Dakota and you hit those flatlands where there's literally nothing for miles.
Yes,
it would drive you mad. It would drive you mad. Thank God for the rosary and thank God for the saints. I was talking to saints all the time.
Yeah,
and the whole way through, I'm like, St. Christopher, how's it hanging up in heaven, St. Christopher? Thanks for carrying Christ that one time. You're great. I was going insane.
Yeah, I've never done it. I've done it alone. I've always been with people. So yeah, that alone, I would say, like, that already took balls. And I think that probably just it helped you grow. It really does. Just absolutely. A trip alone would help somebody grow.
Yeah,
and then going back again, you.
Yes, I don't like seeing things like, oh, it changed me. I'm a different person now. I think that's cringe most times because most people don't actually change. They just they imagine they changed. But no, that trip did have a being alone with my thoughts for 14 days. Because when I first got into Canada, I forgot to turn on international roaming. So I had no cell service, no audiobooks, no podcast, no GPS. So I spent 4 days in Canada with no information, no cell service. I had an actual atlas I was trying to read to get through places. Yeah. I was asking old people for directions. Like it definitely the whole drive thing and trying to manage the money. Like, okay, hotels, gas, and food, but still have enough money to get an apartment when I get up there. Because also, I didn't have a place to stay. Grant talked about letting me crash with him months before I left, and I never double checked with him. I had no place to stay before I got up there. I figured out where I was going to sleep that night the day I got into Alaska. Like the day I got to Grant's mom's house, the day I figured out where I was going to be sleeping for that first night. I had no idea.
That is awesome. Yeah, but that's good because that itself is a risk. It's an adventure. That's what helps boys become men. It really does. Yes. And it's it's something that I think people as a man, you need to experience that. Now, you could experience it the way you did with literal travel, which is an adventure on its own. You could do it with, but it is what men need. And because when you finally experience those things in life, that's when you do realize that there is no reason really to be afraid, because either you're going to die or you're going to overcome it.
Yes.
And it's like, that's it, right? And it's like, okay, whatever. You already know you're going to die at some point. I hope to God people know that. They're just aware that I'm not going to live forever. Fine. And yes, yeah. and it just seems to me then that when you experience stuff like that and you actually take these adventures or other kind of risks in life, it just helps you grow. You're not scared of those little things.
The risk doesn't have to be massive either. Like, I mean, basic scale risk.
Driving to Alaska was pretty massive, but yeah.
Yeah. Basic scale risk. Asking a girl out. That's kind of a risk. That's a basic risk. And dealing with the rejection of that's gross right there. Dealing with the rejection is gross. But again, we're so positivity obsessed. People don't even ask you out anymore. We swipe right and left, and they quickly bypass the negativity by just swiping right and hoping they like back. Again, even with dating apps nowadays, there is no quote unquote rejection unless you get into a conversation and she stops texting. In which case you can just say, "Oh, she's busy. She ghosted me. Whatever. I'll move on." Even in the dating market, the negativity of rejection has been dissipated. We go to dating apps, we go to social medias and stuff, and you always say, "Oh, she ghosted me, whatever. Business be crazy."
Yeah,
we've ignored. We've tried to distance ourselves from the risk of rejection in even the dating market, which is the most primal and basic thing needed to existence.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Anyone listening, take risk. Ask a girl out.
Oh yeah.
Move somewhere. That's a great example. Ask for a raise. Try to go to your boss and say, "Hey, I think I deserve a raise."
Yeah.
I mean, good. My boss is my dad, so I do it every dinner. I'm like, "Can I get a raise?" I do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's good.
And just put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Yeah. You have to. I mean, that's what builds, character. And you stop being just afraid of stupid shit. And to go back to like what we're discussing with anxiety, I think shit like that's what's going to get rid of your anxiety. Is that you face it. You face whatever that thing is in your life. We all have different capacities, right?
Exposure therapy is basic.
Yes, and it does definitely work. Just like whenever somebody says exposure therapy, I just think of What About Bob? I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but yeah, that's what I mean. But anyways, so like putting yourself in those situations and just just watch it happen. Just watch reality happen when you take the risk. It's something. We limit ourselves. I think more than anything else, we limit ourselves by never allowing the scary thing to take place. Like we want to protect ourselves all the time. Yes. And I think just putting yourself in a situation where you have to act in whatever capacity that you have that pushes that limit that you put upon yourself, you're just going to get rewards, whether it's just like confidence rewards or social rewards. You will get rewards simply by acting that way. And it's I've had so many young people just tell me about their anxiety, about their fear, about their depression. I've had a lot of young people. It's like there's people that even in my life right now who are just like jealous of what I have, and it's like, well, it's what it took to get to this point, right? It's like people want the outcome, but they don't want what it takes to get that outcome. They don't, Yeah, there's well, you may have your own business and you make this kind of money, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but you don't. You do it. That's the way I feel like you do it. You see what it's like to sleep on a floor. See what from the ground up and taking that kind of risk. You know, all the scars you get from all of that activity that you put into it. That's how you get the rewards. Like you cannot get something great in life, whether it's just financial or a beautiful woman like you're talking about, or whatever it is. You cannot get any of that if you don't actually risk it, and just facing that, whatever that fear is.
No, we are an incredibly risk-adverse society because we are a very feminized society, and women shouldn't take the same risk men should take. But because of that, all of our culture has been longhouse into being really very feminine. We're all like, oh, we can't have, that's a risky endeavor. We shouldn't do that because it's risky. It's like, no, stop being a pussy. Let's fucking do it. Just fucking do it.
Just do it. Yes. You want it, work for it. That's it. You want something, something simple.
I saved up for 1.5 years to get to Alaska, and it lasted only 4 months.
Yep.
But it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. It was incredible.
Yes, yeah.
Pick a goal, work towards it, accept the fact that you might fail, and that even if you fail, you're going to learn from the failure, and that itself is a reward.
Yes.
But back to the point about, like, I think one of the reasons we don't have that, we're a completely feminized society, which sucks. It's one of the reasons people are risk adverse. But also, like I said earlier, it's the lack of examples. We're so adverse to learning. We're so adverse to great people in history who took risks. Like Napoleon started off as a random dude in Corsica, which is an island that just became France because the Italians sold it, and he rose to be an emperor. Julius Caesar started with no money in a house that used to be famous, used to be a royal family, and now was living in the gutters. And he rose up to be emperor. You know, great people, they take the risk and they grow. And we don't have, we are so scared of talking about the examples of great men that there's no model for inspiration. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's horrible. And I'm hoping that's something that someone like Trump at least is trying to fix. It seems like, you know, you look at somebody that tried to get that they tried to kill twice, tried to put in jail with 74 felonies. Somebody that they basically risked and lost a lot of money with his real estate empire that he built. But he risked it all, and I hope young people really see that, because that's an example that we need.
J.D. Vance is a great example. He started off hillbilly trash.
Another one.
He started off hillbilly trash, living with his grandma because his mom was a drunk and he didn't know who his dad was. And now he's the vice president.
Yeah.
He joined the army. He went to Harvard or Yale or one of those schools and just succeeded. He kept risking it all and succeeding.
Teaching America about Thomas Aquinas. It's beautiful.
Yes. Dude, Vance is so fucking great. I don't know if you saw on Twitter. He was on Twitter.
I hope he runs the next presidency.
Anyone listening now, here's my 2028 prediction. Republican ticket would be J.D. Vance for president and Pete Hegseth for vice president, and the Democrat ticket would be Kamala, and the Democrat ticket would be Kamala and one of the squad members, probably AOC. They're gonna run Kamala again. I really think they're gonna run her again. They have no one else, and it's gonna be so funny to see Vance just absolutely trounce that Indian chick.
Yes. Have you seen? I know. Yeah, she is Indian.
Yes.
Have you seen that the AOC gained weight though? Do you think she gained weight or she got like a boob job?
I think she's
she looked weird. You think she's pregnant?
I
don't think that guy has any sperm, man.
I think it's somebody else.
Boyfriend?
It's not Trump.
Okay.
It's Trump.
It's Elon Musk, baby.
It's Elon Musk. Yes. I would not doubt it. I would. If you see the way she talks about Elon, it's like a bitchy chick who has a crush. Okay, she talks about him like a mean girl who has a crush. Okay.
Yeah.
She's.
Yeah, well, I saw her in the most recent interview, and I was like, her body just looks different. I don't know if she got a boob job. I don't know if she's just gaining weight, but she does not look the same. There's something. You think so?
I think she maybe hit the wall. every woman hits the wall. Every man hit the wall way later. Women just hit the wall way earlier. But speaking of
that's probably what it is.
I want a quick funny story. I was complaining about because I'm on all the dating apps. I'm trying to get a girlfriend, all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
And one of the problems in Polk County is the ratio between attractive guy and attractive woman is 3-1. There is 3 attractive guys for every 1 attractive female, and because of feminism, fat 2s sink to 6s, and so they're just insufferable. So it's a weird pain in the ass just trying to get a match. Like when I was in Alaska, I downloaded Hinge. I had 19 matches in an hour. In Florida, I've been on the app for 2 weeks. I can't get a single match. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
and I was complaining about this. I was complaining about the fact that every woman who matches with me has a black kid. All of them. Every single one's a fat white woman with a black kid. And my mom went, well, Caleb, you're getting to that age. You might have to just accept the fact that your wife will have a kid. Have a previous kid from a different marriage. I'm like, Mom, I'm a guy.
Yeah.
I can find, when I hit 30, I'll find a 22-year-old sugar baby. You know, it'll be fine.
Yes. Of course. Yeah. You could go younger.
A man can go younger. And thank God for that. I thank God a man can go younger. It's great. It's a real gift from God.
It is, yeah.
But it's Vance and Trump have been so great. Elon Musk has been great. I really hope Vance runs. I really want it to be Vance. I think he's just
me too.
He's just so great on Twitter. I think he's taken Trump's role as being the poster in chief, and he's responding to liberals in the greatest way. Like today, he tweeted out about the Ukraine's war standing. He tweeted out about it and stuff. And some liberal commented, "It's a bad idea to let the war footing be known by the opposition before any debate. You still have to know any information beforehand." And Vance commented, "Yeah, dummy. Putin had no idea about the war standing before I told him right now on Twitter." It's so good.
That was awesome.
So
It's beautiful, man.
We have been saying retard for years, so Vance can say dummy. It's great.
Yes.
It's incredible.
No, the way the culture has shifted, it's just so beautiful. It's one of the greatest things that has happened just in the past month because of Trump's presidency. That alone, to me, is enough to him to go down in history as a great man. He has shifted the culture so much that it's something that I just appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
It's beautiful. Libtards will tweet the most bullshit thing. Like I saw today, some libtard tweeted about Elon Musk put out a new new order for all the government employees. It was like, you have to submit an email by Sunday listing 5 things you've got done this week. Otherwise, you will be fired. And if you don't submit one, it'll be viewed as a resignation. And this liberal was like, government employees deserve respect. And every comment was like, list 5 things you've done this week, bitch. List 5 things. Can you list 5 things, bitch? Like, we don't have to. Listening to women screech at you has been rejected at the ballot box. We don't have to listen to it anymore. Yeah. It's beautiful.
No, it's just something so amazing. I'm glad I waited to do my lawsuit until now.
Yes.
And it was partly intentional too, because I was like, I didn't feel like the right time before, but now it feels like the right time.
Yeah.
Because now when I put in that I'm submitting that lawsuit, it's like, well, it's on my side now. It has shifted so dramatically that I don't see how I cannot not win. In all honesty, it's going to be beautiful. Yes, it's real. I need to.
It's a great time. It's a great time. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yep, I'm going to ride this wave, and if I win, I'm gonna buy the Alaska newspaper. That's what I'm going to do if I win. Not even exaggerated.
I would have guessed you would have started your town. That reminds me, if you ever decide to start your town, I'll move back up there. I'll live on the streets. I'll help you out.
I'm
move
back
up there.
Too.
When you start the town, I'll move back up there. Help you with the survey or something.
Well, the lawsuit is for $5 million. And so I think I could start it.
You could definitely start a town with that.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
Ooh, would be great.
I really am excited. I'm so excited. I want to go to court. I want to clear my name. It's going to be beautiful.
When you start your town, we have to invite Jay into the town just to kick him out.
Yes.
So it's 110 countries.
No, I want to invite Jay so he could also. But when Jay roasts Grant, it is hilarious. Grant doesn't get it. He was like the other time when he was talking about it, he was like, I don't really see why it's so funny. It was like it's pretty damn funny. I'm sorry. There's something about the way that he does it. It's still one of my favorite episodes that we did was with Jay, and both Jay and I were just roasting him about Grant always being broke, and was like, what are you spending your money on? It was beautiful.
He did a payment plan for pans or something.
Yes.
That's so retarded. I love Grant to death, but that's so retarded. Payment plan for pans.
It was hilarious. Seriously, it was one of the funniest bits I think on Contra Gentilis. But yeah, I'm thinking of especially doing this episode and everything. Like I've been talking about it for the last month to try to just reboot it, but I'm just having difficulty trying to get him to do it. I don't know if I should do it on my own with other guests or whatever. I mean, I think we could still have a good time, but
you have a standing invitation. Anytime you want to record, just let me know. I'll have you on anytime you want.
Yeah.
I'll hop on
Maybe I should start releasing new episodes with you and see if rotating guests or whatever. It should be fun.
We've missed you on the timeline and the podcast view. We've missed you. We have missed you. It was when you and Grant were doing weekly episodes, man. It was, and you guys would go after the libertarians and the purple nationalist people. It was just fun. It was great. You tell people to kill themselves.
It was. I know. Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Like I had to re-listen to all these episodes while I was writing out my lawsuit, and I was like, man, it was just fun. Like I want to do it again, and it's like, well, if he doesn't want to, I don't know what to do, but I just feel like maybe if we just start putting some content out there, it might want him to bring him back. But I think your description is probably accurate. Just the feeling of inadequacy as a new convert to speak of the and other things. But that was the point of the show. Like when he started, he wasn't even Catholic, right? Like we started that show, he was nothing. He was raised Protestant. He believed in God and had this general, like I guess Christian outlook in life, but he wasn't Catholic. But that's I think what gave the show a lot of the charm was the fact that he didn't know those things. Really, and to try to backtrack and say that, well, now I want to know those things before I could speak of it, I think erases the charm. It's like that's the point, that we're discussing things and we're growing, and we make irreverent jokes as well as talk about philosophical and theological concepts, and some episodes would be more theological or philosophical than it would be about jokes.
I still go back to y'all. I still go back to y'all's episode on Ed Vaiz's Philosophy of the Mind because it's the greatest breakdown of that book. It's incredible.
Oh yes, that was a great episode. I
still recommend it to people. When I have friends or coworkers, we start talking philosophy and we get into philosophy of the mind. I'm like, no, here's an episode. Listen to this, then we'll talk. It's a great episode. You're gonna love it. It's a great episode.
Yeah. So hopefully, maybe we should send Grant this episode right here, motivate him a little bit more.
We
need to put it out there. Yes, and the reason why I did it was for listeners, right? It wasn't for me. It wasn't for any of that. And actually, I had to be dragged into doing it because I ever since 2013, people been wanting me to do it. I didn't really do it, but COVID is what brought me in to it, and a lot of my students were telling me, "Hey, I want you to continue this." Because I don't know if you remember, but when we started it was just because I was doing it for my class. Mm-hmm. Like that's what it was. I had to do online courses because COVID shut down me to go into the university, and so I was like, well, I might as well just make it interesting, like a podcast episode, and that's how Grant and I started it. And then a lot of our students listened to it. And they told me, well, can you just keep going with it? And we just kept going with it. That was it. That's like, it's a very beginning of the show, but that's really what it was. And so it always was for the listener. It always was for others. Mm-hmm. And, I invested a lot of my time for Grant because it's like he was unpacking a lot of these truths that he didn't encounter beforehand. And it was important, right? And to just stop it when we had such a large listening base, people wanting to at least engage with us, it just seems unfortunate. And
one of the great things about it was that it was there's like three kinds of Catholic podcasts: super reverent and boring, kind of terrible, super reverent and boring, or Pints of Aquinas. Those are the three options. You guys had the intellectual Catholic podcast, and it was great. Yeah. Listen, there were a lot of great Catholic podcasts. Kristen B. Ragnar, very smart guy. I enjoy listening to his streams. He's kind of a prude. And I don't like it. He's German. He was Anglican. He's very prudish. I don't mind. I don't mind with that. We need Puritans have ruined everything, and we need the most anti-Puritan podcast possible, and that is you and Grant. It's the most anti-Puritan. It was the most masculine, anti-feminine, or not against women, but like the opposite of women, irreverent podcast. It was incredible.
Yeah. It was good. So one way or another, I'm going to keep trying to get him onto it, but maybe I'm just going to have to. Maybe I just have to go solo with you and another guest host until he could.
If you DM'd anybody from the group chat, they would love to come on. Like if you text Jay or Ryan or someone, they'd probably be down for it. It's just to talk to you again because it's always fun. Yeah.
Yes, Jay lives in Florida too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I should. I'll make that commitment now. I'll make that commitment.
Fantastic. Well,
I'm thinking I'm just going to start next week. Why not? Saturday night could be the night, right? Because it's the end of the busy week. I could have some wine. It helps me unwind after, a torturous weekend, like every fucking weekend. We get so fucking busy as I just. Anyways, I'm not going to get to my business, but yeah, this right now is a beautiful time. I need to unwind like this more.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, we're running up on 2 hours here. All
right.
I think I got anything else I want to talk about here. Here's it. Okay, last little topic, and then we'll wrap it up after this. Great men of history: Napoleon, Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Hannibal Barca, Hitler. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite? Like, who's your favorite great man? Whenever you hear a new story about him, you're like, man, that guy's fucking cool.
My favorite, it has to be Charlemagne.
That's a good pick. It's a great pick.
Yeah. Charlemagne, and then probably Napoleon.
He died a Catholic. He died with the sacraments. Total hero.
Yes, yeah.
Every time
I like Francisco Franco.
Franco's great.
I know, yeah.
Every time I read about Waterloo, I'm like, man, if that cavalry had been like an hour slower, he would have won.
I know, yeah.
Everything would have been better.
He's been appealing to me since I was a kid. There's something about Napoleon that Charlemagne, it's seriously, I think the first time I heard the story of Charlemagne was in second grade. I believe, I'm trying to remember, but I think in second or third grade. And what he was able to accomplish, I mean, really, like completely destroy the Norsemen and of course convert them. Beautiful.
I think my favorite great man is either I'm tempted to say Hannibal, because his marching through the Alps and his absolute his military genius in the Battle of Cannae and all of Rome and stuff, and we don't have any information on it. We have, sadly, because Rome burned every book but one when they took Carthage in the Third Punic War. He became basically the equivalent of a consul in Carthage, and offered to pay back the war indemnities, which Rome expected to take 50 years. He offered to pay it back in full in just 10 years. He rectified the entire Carthage economy. Complete hero. And we don't know how he did it because they burned all the books. So I want to say Hannibal. But I really think when it comes to a great man of history,
I do like Alexander the Great too.
I love Alexander. Anyone listening, there's a great book from author Philip Freeman. He writes very easy to listen to read history books where he tells it in kind of a narrative fashion. His book on Alexander is it's in my top 5 books of the year. It was so good. Yeah. But when it comes to great men, I think I got to go Duke Godfrey of Bouillon. He was the one of the first Crusaders who helped retake Jerusalem. There's 2 great stories about him and why I love him so much is when they were trying to figure out who would stay behind in Jerusalem and be the king, they asked all the soldiers, hey, say whatever you want to say. We're not going to let them know. What do you think of your leader? What do you think of your general? And the only complaint they had with Duke Godfrey was that after Mass, he kept them in the sanctuary too long to ask the priest questions. That dinner was always cold afterwards. That was their biggest complaint. He spent too long asking questions of priests. So that when they made him king, he said, I will not wear a crown of thorns where my savior will I will not wear a crown of gold, where my Savior wore a crown of thorns and took the name Defender of the Holy Sepulchre instead of King. Just incredible. He was so
that's a good one.
He was so strong that the Sultan's brother came across to Jerusalem with a camel and said, hey, I heard you're really strong. Prove it. Cut a horse in half. So he cut a horse in 2 with one swing. Yeah. And the guy was like, well, your sword is really sharp. I don't believe it. So he grabbed the dude's sword and cut his camel in half. Just incredible.
That's amazing.
Incredible.
Yes, yeah.
But it's just so many great men of history that we don't learn about.
Did you know about Basil?
Yes.
I don't know if it was the second or not.
Basil the second.
Yeah, Basil the second. Yes, so cool. Beautiful. Yeah.
He's a Civ in Civ 6. You can play as him.
Yeah.
But anyone listening, wrap up in the episode. Take risk. Don't be feminine. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Study the great men of history and pray the rosary before any endeavor. That's a good wrap up from this.
Yeah. And I think the last thing that I would just say to that is that, especially with the risk part, you just have to realize constantly that you're going to die. And I think just always having that in the back of your mind, it helps you relieve any kind of anxiety that you would have towards taking risk. Because why try to preserve something that's unpreservable? You're not preserving anything. Might as well just fucking risk, and if you die, you die because you're going to anyways.
You die, or you get a great story out of it. Those are the 2 outcomes.
Yes,
and either
there's so many things worse than death.
Yes. Oh, there's so many things worse than death. What's that line from St. Paul? Don't be scared of those who can destroy the body. Be scared of those who can destroy the soul.
Yes, that's a good one.
True.
Yes, yeah.
So true.
Yeah,
absolutely true. Yep. The death of the soul is far worse than the death of the body.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Well, we've gone 2 hours. You want to give plugs to your future podcast episodes, your Twitter or anything, Jeremy?
Yeah. Maybe I should start posting more things again. It was Dr. Diogenes. I think I'm still on Twitter, or Jeremy Cubas, so you can find me. And the podcast that I was a part of with Grant for the many years was Contra Gentiles, and hoping to put out new episodes in the next few weeks.
Fantastic.
Get rolling with it again.
Okay. Well, everyone, thanks
All right.
for listening. Be sure to subscribe and everything because next week I'm having a guy on to explain the history of Rhodesia. And then Connor and I will be doing the Chester Belloc Poetry Hour on Sunday. So be sure to be back for that.
Wait, how's Connor doing?
Connor's doing, he's getting married.
Yeah, he's getting married to that one chick. Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful, man.
Beautiful chick. She's fantastic. I've met her several times. Just incredible. I'll tell you a story about her after the stream because I don't want to get her in trouble.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a little story after the stream. But she's incredible. But anyway, everyone, thanks for listening. Have a good night and God bless.